Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to make this rocket ship. I saw one on Pinterest, so I thought I had to design one, make one. I had to, and it sold out on very well. All this little flame down here is, find my ball. This is Impeccable Speckle from Loops and Threads, and the color is Hot Sunshine, so that's what I use, the variegated. It's the best color I could find. You may be able to find something better. My store, Michael's, that I use is very low on products. In Canada, we can shop online at a store called Hobby. It's like a Hobby Lobby, but it doesn't have the sales deals all the time. But there is actually no Hobby Lobby in Canada anywhere. So I have Michael's. That's about it. I have no Joann's. I don't even know if there's any Joann's in Canada. So this is the best I could do, and that was in store. They didn't even have any online that I could have shipped to me. So it turned out to not be too bad, actually. I think it looks all right for flames. And then just whatever other colors that you choose. Mine's can be a completely different color. My second one will be a completely different color, but this is the little rocket ship we're going to build today. Let's jump right into this. So I'm using a 4.5 today, but just use whatever hook that your yarn calls for, and if you want to go down in size a little bit, you can. This is amigurumi. Most of mine calls for a 5, so I just kind of dip down to a 4.5. It's not extreme, but whatever your yarn calls for. If it calls for a 4mm, then you know, use a 4 or dip down to a 3.5. So I don't have many labels for what I'm using this for. This project was made with scrap yarn. Just, you know, the leftover tiny little balls you can't do anything with. So that's all I'm using today, like literally. I'm starting with this purple. And this is kind of scrap yarn. So my yarn mostly is 5mm, I think it calls for, if I can remember correctly. But so I'm just using a 4.5 to be on the safe side, but you can use whatever yarn, scrap yarn you got sitting around. This does not take very long. So we're going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. You're going to need a stitch marker because we are going to do this in amigurumi. Hate seams, didn't see any point of seams. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So this is my first stitch, which is always difficult to get into. The marker goes on the first stitch, in the first stitch, and then you can put number 2 in that same space. So 2 single crochets in each stitch around gives you 12 stitches. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase, because I kind of want this to be a little pointy on the top, so that's what we do to get it more pointed. We'll follow up each row with a 1 single crochet in each stitch, so you should still just have 12 stitches. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase, and this will bring it up to 18 stitches. That's your 1 single crochet, that's the one that gets the marker. And then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 24 stitches. That's number 1, that's number 2, and then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, followed by a round of 1 single crochet in each stitch. That's number 1, that's number 2 and 3, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And then we're going to do a round of 1 single crochet in each stitch. This will be on my pause screen. The last stitch before the marker, that's where we're going to change color. So I'll come back to meet up with you at that spot, and we'll change color together. So 3 single crochet increase this round. Next round is 1 single crochet in each of the 30 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So I'm on my last stitch. I have 1 more stitch left before my marker. So this is where I'm going to change colors. So I'm going to go in and pull up a loop. I'm going to red. This is just trim. Let me show you what we're doing. It's this part right here. That's all we're doing. And then we're going to a different color. Well, I am. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. It's your project. So, if you've been following me long enough, you know what I'm about to do. I don't want to weave. I used to weave. I used to be adamant about weaving. Gotta weave, gotta weave. But then I realized how much thicker my project was on one side, not the other. It started to irritate me. So, stopped doing it. So I am not going to be going back to this purple after. I'm going to be going to another color. I have some wild colors going on in this video. But kids like bright, in-your-face colors. So this particular round, we're going to be doing front post single crochets. So starting, here I'm going to zoom in if I can zoom in closer. Oh, I can't. As far as I can go. I'll zoom in with my editing. So starting in around this post right here, so kind of right under where you are, go around that post like that, yarn over, pull through, and finish your stitch. That's your first one. There's a color change, but if you're not using a color change, put a marker in. You're going to go down into the shared space that you were just in to grab this next post. Yarn over, pull through, finish the stitch. We're going to do that all the way around. So as long as you're putting this front post on your hook, you should be good. And you don't have to skip over to the next hole. You're sharing that hole space from where you were in before, because you got to grab the very next post. So this will put an interesting ridge around your whole project. You can probably already feel it happening. Speed up to normal speed, because I think you understand what's happening. This video is beginner friendly, by the way. That's why I'm taking the time. Oh good, I didn't know my little piece of scrap yarn was going to make it all the way around, but it did. So go right up till you don't have any more posts. So I'm switching colors here, so I'm not going to finish this last post stitch. I am going to yellow, pretty sure. I wrote all down what I wanted my, I have a knot right off the bat. It's really bright. I'm not sure I'm going to have tags for everything I use, but if you do this tying a knot business, just leave your hook in it so you know how tight to make it if you're not familiar with tension. It takes a while to get familiar with the whole tension part. This much red left out of my scrap. That's okay, I'm going to be using it again, so I may not be using this little piece, but that tomato color, or this red color, is tomato. I didn't have the tag, but I do remember it because I love the red and I use it all the time. Alrighty, so we're going to be getting into the stitches from round 8. So we're on round 10 right now. We're not touching this red rim that we just did. We're going into these stitches, these purple stitches from the row we did prior to doing the front post. These top stitches were all still exposed because we went around the post. We didn't use the stitches. So those are the stitches that we're going to get into right now for this row. And that just leaves this ridge nicely exposed by doing that. That's the reason behind it. So just make sure you're getting into the very first stitch. You're going to do 4 single crochet increase. I moved my marker. So that's number 1. That's 4 single crochets. So the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. At the end of this row you should have 36 stitches. So I'm at the end of my row and I just want to show you because it's kind of difficult to see the last stitch. So there's my marker. So you kind of got to roll it around a little bit to get into that last stitch is right there. So it's hard to see, but you just turn it over a little bit. And that's where my increase goes, because I'm just before my marker. So, everything, oh, I got my yellow popping through. I should have probably cut these longer, but it'll be fine. It'll eventually be all inside the rocket anyway, and nobody will even notice it. So from here, and we should have 36 stitches. So we're going to do the next 10 rows is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 36 stitches. So this is what my 10 rows looks like. This is the back, in case you're wondering. That's the front. So this is what my 10 rows looks like. The next round I want you to do in the back loops only. And the reason I want you to do the back loops is because we're going to need to come back in and reattach. And I want to use the front loops to reattach with. So this isn't crocheted in. This is crocheted on. So this round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch in the back loops only. So these are your back loops. You don't have to turn it over or anything. You can just get right into them. Now, I take this finger and I just push the loop onto my hook. I mean, I stick the hook in, but it's just a lot easier than trying to fiddle. I usually just kind of roll my hook down and push on. It works fine for me. I mean, you'll figure out what works fine for you. So that's my back loop. So it leaves all these front loops here all exposed. So when we reattach again, this will be a lot easier. So we can stuff it. I'm going to start decreasing in the next round. So we can start stuffing this. Just make sure you stuff it so that it keeps this point. So that's usually the first thing I stuff. So the next round is going to be 4 single crochet and a decrease in the full loop, in the full stitch. That's number 1 with your marker. That's 4 single crochets. And then I'm going to use the front loops here. Front loop, yoink, front loop for my decrease. Pull through, finish the stitch. I'll show you that again. Four single crochets. So I'll show you a normal one first. A normal decrease is you go in, you pull up a loop, you go in, you pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. An invisible decrease, so it just cuts down on the gapping. You're going to go in the front loop only. So again, I just use this finger to hold everything in place so it's easier. Go in the front loop, but we're not yarning over. You just kind of pop around and go in the second front loop. Then you yarn over and pull through. Then finish the stitch. So last one will be in slow-mo before my pause screen. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease, if I can get my stitch marker out. And this will bring you down to 24 stitches, and you're going to follow this up with a 1 single crochet round. That's number 1, 2 and 3, and then decrease. Again, I'm going to just continue with my invisible. So do this all the way around. This brings you down to 24 stitches, like I said. And then I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 24 stitches on your next round. It'll be all on my pause screen, and I will see you on the other side. So I forgot to mention, this last stitch, kind of back out of it, because we're going to be changing to whatever color you're using for your fire. That's what we're changing to now. So I use this, obviously, I've showed you already in the beginning. That's what I'm going to change to. So I'm going to go in for my color change. I'm going to pull up a loop. I'm going to go to my fire. So this much left over from my half a cake. So each cake, so a whole entire cake is half of a 7-ounce ball skein. So I had half a cake when I started, so it was like literally a third of a 7-ounce ball to build the body. So that's why I say it's a scrap yarn project, because you really don't use much at all. So this next round is going to be done in the back loops again, because we need the front loops to add all of our fire. So your next round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each back loop. So we are going to continue with our decreases in the next few rounds. We're going to close this right up. So I want you to finish stuffing it. Well, not finish, but continue to stuff it. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 18 stitches. So we're going into the full stitch, and all these front loops that we left exposed are going to be what we start attaching our fire to. So that's number 1, that's number 2, and then your decrease. So again, I'm just using the front loops. So your next round is going to be done in the back loops, because we're going to attach the, so we have, when we make our fire, we've got these little short guys, and then we've got these longer guys, and these next front loops that we're going to leave exposed are for the longer guys. So it is going to be done in the back loops only, and it's going to be a 1 single crochet decrease. So my decrease in the back loops is just going to be like a regular decrease. and I'll show you again. That's my 1 single crochet, and then in my back loops I'm gonna pull through, just like a regular decrease. So this will take you down to 12 stitches. Oh. So you can fasten off. We're cinching. So that's all you need is just a cinching and a weaving tail. Finish filling it. So we take our needle. So we're using the front loops. We're going to go in this front loop and then out the next front loop. Just like that. All the way around. So once you're all the way around, pull it closed, and then I like to pop across and make a knot to go through your loop. And I'm going to do it the other way, making as many knots as you want for the bottom. So these are the front loops we left exposed in that round. So that's going to be for the bigger flame, and then these front loops we've left exposed are going to be for the smaller flame, and then these front loops are going to be what we're going to reattach to in a second with probably the same color that we did this. Yep. You can do whatever you want. I'm going to reattach with the same color that I did up top. So, the beginning of your rocket ship. So, I'm going to get my red. I'm not sure I have enough. I've got more red though. So, I'm going to reattach. My camera doesn't like to stay on when I'm in the middle of something. So, turn it over and go to your back to reattach. So you're going to reattach in the PDF users. You'll see it say reattach in the front loops only from round 21. And this was your round 21, so that just means these front loops. So now these are staggered because we work in a spiral when we do amigurumi, but I will show you no problem how to take care of that. So we just need to make a slip knot. And reattach. So I'm going to reattach down here on the lowest one using a single crochet. I'm going to put another single crochet into this spot so I have something to work with when I come back around. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each front loop all the way around. So there should be 36. So that's my 36th stitch, and you can see that I'm slightly crooked. I'm going to go down into this space, and I'm going to come up sideways, kind of picking up this thicker post. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, so I'm making an extra stitch. So from here, you're going to go into your first stitch that you made to start your row, and this is where your marker is going to go. And you don't really technically need a marker because you've got this thing. So, but if you wanted to weave that in, like I'm probably going to do, well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll weave it in or not. I do know that I'm going to run out of red, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. Anyway, your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So that's number 1 with your marker. What's number 2? And then I would just do a regular decrease, because I don't think it's super duper important. So this will bring you down to 27 stitches. So remember when I said we were going to skip that stitch? That's the stitch right there. So we're completely skipping it because that's the sideways stitch that we did. And we're just going to completely go around that and pretend it's not even there. So you should have 27 stitches. One single crochet in each of these 27 stitches. My 27th stitch. Oh. So it should be nicely kind of snugged, and you get the back of the work, which is the best part. So you can just pop over here to the first stitch you made to do a slip stitch. Fasten. My camera loves to shut off in the middle of something. So you got a bit of a jog, but this is the back of your work, so that's the best part. So I tied my 2 pieces in a knot before I weaved, that way I didn't have to weave very far. And if you do it right, all of it's going to be shoved up underneath that anyway, so I just went up, under, and out. And that way you can't see any of that. I did not press down hard enough there. So it should fit nice and snug so that it looks like it's part of the piece and not a skirt. It should fit snugly, but you can still lift it up. So that's that. Easy peasy. So the fire takes the longest, so I'll just kind of leave that till the end-ish. We can do the window because that's nice and quick. So I'm just going to use white for this window part, and then I'm going to use this same blue but for this round part. So start with whatever window pane you want. So do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Oh, that was a sad excuse for a magic ring. You're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. That's number 1. That's number 2. 2 single crochets in each stitch around gives you 12 stitches. Oh, I'm stuck on something. I want you to do 1 single crochet increase, and then when we're done, you're going to change to whatever color you want the outside of the window to be. So that's 1 single crochet, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. This will give you 18 stitches. So this last stitch, I'm going to be changing colors, so I'm putting 2 stitches in this last stitch for my sequence, but I'm not going to finish the second stitch with that. I'm going to get my blue, and I'm going to finish this last stitch with the blue. So with my blue color, I'm going to do 18 front post single crochets. So the same thing that we did up here, we're going to do on here. So the first one you need to get is this one right down here. Again, you don't need a marker if you're changing colors. So again, remember, shared space from the one where you came out, you have to go back in to pick up the next post. So make sure you're doing 18. My last one is here and it's 18. So again, it puts this ridge around it. So again, we're doing the same thing. So do you remember when we turned it over and we used the stitches from the previous row? We're going to do that again, just because I like it. So you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around using these white stitches from the row before. Should have 18. And again, to get this last stitch down in here, you kind of got to dig. Make sure you're getting both those pieces of yarn though. It likes to turn itself over and hide. So that is it. We're going to fasten off. Easy peasy. So, you know, you got a crisscross thing going on. Just kind of pop around here, grab this stitch. This is going to be your sewing, for your sewing, so kind of straightens it out a little bit. So you need a sewing tail. And I put a little bit of stuffing under mine when I sewed it on, but yeah, you get a little bit of this little swirl. I'm just gonna cut those all off short. So I'm gonna start sewing mine on. I'm not gonna stuff it until I'm about 3/4 of the way around. So just don't put it at the back with all this crap. Make sure it's at the front. And you can put your swirl any way you want. I'm just going to put mine up. It doesn't really matter. I mean, the swirl means nothing. It's just unavoidable, basically. But, you know, you could argue that the swirl is there on purpose because that's what our galaxies look like. No, I'm just being an idiot, but... So, anyway, get your window sewn on. So make sure it sits up like this. You know, it's not rocket science. I've been finding a way to, I've been dying to say that. Anyway, that was stupid. But you're probably laughing at me because I'm stupid, so either way, you laughed. So if you've watched my channel enough, you know that sometimes I like to go around twice if I've got the extra just to make sure it's sewn on properly. And that's because I suck at sewing. So I'm going to leave this video off with showing you the fire. And then when we come back in chapter 2, we're just going to be doing... all that's left is attaching all the fire and then making these 3 legs. That'll be it for chapter 2. So the fire the fire, we have a small fire and then a big fire. So the small fire is making a slip knot, chaining 12, and putting 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way back up. That's what the fire is. And you've got to make 12 of these short ones. So It can be time consuming because you got to do 12. But when we come back in the next chapter, your homework should be done. I'm passing out homework now. And we should be able to just sew them all on. Because again, that's... Well, I mean, actually, that's not time consuming. It's about as time consuming as making all these, which are fairly quick, each one, but when it adds up. So if you're just sitting around on the couch watching TV tonight, you can just kind of whip these off. So I'm in my last stitch. I'm going to show you what I do if I can ever get through it. So I'm going to fasten off with a bit of a sewing tail, so not much. This is where I started, so that's my slip knot. I'm going to tie these two, and I did this with every single piece of flame. Tie it a tight double knot. Don't cut off your straggler because we actually use it to attach with. So that's the small flame. You got to make 12. And then the large flame is chain 16 and do the exact same thing. So all this is going to be on my screen. You don't have to try to remember it. So chain 16. That's my 16. And then you do the exact same thing. 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way back up. That's how you make your little curly cues. So fasten off, which is the little sewing tail, and we do the same thing. Tie your starter straggler with your ender straggler. There you go. These guys, you only make 5. So 5 of the big ones and 12 of the small ones, and you will have enough to put them all in. The big ones go in these front loops. Obviously we're not using every single loop because we got more than 5, and the same thing with these. We have more than 12, so we're not using every single front loop, but the small ones go around here. And then we'll make these landing gears. I've got 2 done because I make a video. I don't want to get my I don't want to get my flames done. So, and then the landing gears, they're shaped like this because they go around this part and they get sewn on like that, and you need 3 of those. So that we'll do in chapter 2, and then we'll add all the flame in chapter 2 and end this video. So I will see you in chapter 2. Hi guys, welcome back. So, last night you were supposed to do all your little fires. I got 12 of my small little guys here and 5 of my big guys here, which I'm going to be starting with. We need to put these on prior to making the landing gear because it's going to be way harder to put them on. The landing gear comes down and blocks the front loops here, so because that's how that's how they go on. So we have to put the fire on first. So remember we tied all these. We're going to start with the long sewing one, and we don't actually spend a whole lot of time attaching this, but find your bottom. So you only have 5. So I used 2 stitches to do this. So I went through one, and I went through the next one. I tied a knot, a double knot, and I weaved. Oh, I split that. I wish I hadn't split that. So that's, I didn't actually sew. You can do whatever you want. You can attach them however you want to attach them. But I just tied them in a, and I don't know why I left so much of this, but. And then I just weaved them up and out. That is it. And that way they still move, you know, they're not sewn in place. They will wiggle and move and but they're attached. They'll be fine. So I'm going to skip one because I only have 5 to do. So I'm right on my last stitch. I skipped one again in the middle. So I'm pretty sure you know how to do this evenly. So I'm pretty sure yours are fine. So these are the long ones, and then the short ones we do the exact same thing. We just use these front loops up here. So first let's count our loops. So we have 12 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 24. So we have 24 stitches. I made you do 12 fire, so that means that you can do 2 stitches per fire, which means not skipping anything in between. So this goes into one stitch, your straggler goes into the next stitch, and no missing stitches in between. And that's what's going to make it flare out, is it being so close together, so that it's not hanging like your long ones here. It'll actually flare out because it's going to get squishy. There we go. Oh, my fire. So it sticks out like that because they're so close together. So, but that's what you want. And then your longer flames down below. So there, our flames are all done. So next is our landing gear. So I am using purple. These two done. So that's the shape we're making them. And I'm using purple because I got purple on top. So I'm using my 4.5 still, and we're going to do a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So we're not slip stitching, we're still in amigurumi. So just jump into your next stitch. And that's your 1 single crochet. My stitch marker on the first stitch. Your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat, so this brings you up to 9 stitches. Your next round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 9 stitches. So you can flip this right side in if you make sure your center's closed enough. Next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring it up to 12 stitches. And this is going to be followed up by 1 single crochet in each of the 12 stitches for your next row. That's number 1, that's number 2, and then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So continue this all the way around, then do your 1 round of 1 single crochet in each stitch. I'll put that all on my pause screen, and I will see you on the other side. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring it up to 15 stitches, and it's going to be followed up by 1 single crochet in each stitch after. So that's 1 single crochet, that's 3 single crochets, and then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So follow my pause screen, and I will see you on the other side. So for this next round, we're going to start increasing, but we're only going to increase on one side. This is where we start coming out here. So your next round, this is number 1 with the stitch marker, you're going to do 5 single crochets. That's number 1 with your marker. That's my 5 single crochets. And then this next stitch gets an increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And then you're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase. 1 single crochet and an increase. And then 5 single crochets back to your marker. So you should have 18 stitches. I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 18 stitches. Alright, your next round is going to start with 5 single crochets again. So that's number 1. This is my 5th single crochet. So your next stitch gets an increase. And now you're going to do 1 single crochet increase 3 times. So 1 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet, increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same space. That's what an increase is. And now you're going to do 6 single crochets back to your marker. So you should have 22 stitches. For the next 3 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 22 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So that's my 3 rows. That's what it should look like right now. So this part's been increased and this part did not. Let's start stuffing it because we're going to start decreasing now. So your next round, we're going back down to 18 stitches. Right now you have 22 stitches. Your next round we're going to do 7 single crochets. That's number 1 with your marker. That's my 7 single crochets. Get that out of the way so you're not distracted. So now you're going to decrease 4 times. I'm going to use my front loop. So I'm going to do the invisible one, which is, if you remember, front loops. Yoink around to the second front loop, yarn over, pull through those 2, and then finish the stitch. That's my first one. That's my second one. Third one. And the last one. And then you should have 7 single crochets back to your marker and 18 stitches. So for the next 2 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 18 stitches. Just want to make sure I'm stuffing this about the same. Alright, so we're going to start this round off differently than the other rounds. We're going to start off by decreasing. So I want you to decrease the next 4 stitches. So these first 2, decrease, put your marker in. Decrease these next 2 stitches. So the first 4 stitches get decreased. And then I want you to do 10 single crochets. That'll bring you around to the other side. What did I just do? 2, 3. And you should have 4 stitches left, and you're going to decrease those. So decrease these 2, and then decrease these 2. And we're going to do the same thing again, but not quite, because our numbers are different, right? So we're going to decrease these 2. Oops. Put our marker in. Then we're going to decrease these next 2. We're going to do 6 single crochets. And you should have 4 stitches left, and you're going to decrease those. So decrease these 2, and then decrease the last 2. And then we put some more stuffing in it before we finish this off. So your last round is going to be 1 single crochet decrease. You're not going to get all the way around. You're going to have 1 extra stitch. And I just want you to put 1 single crochet in it. So that's 1 single crochet. And then your decrease. So do that till you can't do it anymore. So 3 times around for my 1 single crochet decrease, and then I have 1 stitch left. And you're just going to put a single crochet in there. You should have 7 stitches. Not that it really matters because we're done. So you can fasten off with a sewing tail and then finish stuffing it. We're going to cinch the top. So make sure the top's got a significant amount of stuffing. Because it's so small, you are going to end up with a little bit of a bump. Just making sure that I'm stuffing it the same. So when you make your other ones, you have to make sure that they're kind of stuffed all the same. And I'll let you go do that in a second. I just want to finish this one first. So I'm going to go through the front loop, and out the front loop. Just like we cinch everything else. In the front loop, out the front loop. You're only going to do it 3 times and then you kind of run out of stitches. So pull that closed and then give it a bit of a knot to keep it that way. wiggle that back and forth. So now you've got this bit of a bump on here, and it's not very attractive, but you should be able to get rid of it when you weave. So I don't want you to, you don't need to actually weave, but when you go back in to kind of bring this bump down, come out where you're going to be sewing. I might get my rocket. So you're going to be sewing like this. So I just popped out here just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So I guess I can do it on this one. So when you come down, you're sewing in here. This is what gets, that's what gets sewn to the rocket. Not the flat side, the side where we increase and stuff. So when you come out, you're going to pop out where you're going to start sewing from, which is going to be this spot. So that should pull your bump down a little bit. I don't think I had enough stuffing in mine, so I do have a little bit of a bump. But so now I'm to where I need to be to start sewing. But if you prefer to start sewing on from here going into the next stitch and through, that's perfectly fine. You can do it that way, but just come down to where you're going to start sewing from, if that makes sense. So these two I came out the back side because that's the side I'm going to start sewing on. But this last one is going to be, I'll just use for the one at the back, and I'm going to start sewing from this side, and I'm just going to pull right through. So I don't sew, so I sew weird. But anyway, just come out wherever you're going to start sewing. So go ahead, I'm going to put the pattern on the screen for this. Go ahead. I'm going to start sewing mine on, and then I will meet you back. So if you want to start sewing yours on, it's fine. And I'll meet you back when I have at least one more to do. So I've got my first two sewn on. I've met up here, and I'm going to tie a double knot. I just don't want to pull that hard that I'm making divots where I was sewing. So I'm going to tie a double knot. It kind of went up underneath here. And I'm going to cut it off, but I'm leaving some nubbies. And then I'm going to poke it down. Pull my thing back down. So this is where my third one goes. I made this tail a little extra long because actually I'm going to use my long needle. So this one does sit lower because the rocket kind of leans back a bit. So this one sits very differently than the other ones. So you just need to put your first two on and then figure out where this needs to go. So I'm just going to go in. I'm trying to keep the stitches split want it to be nice and tight, so I go through the yarn, not through the holes. So once you determine where you want your third rocket leg to be, and go back down the same hole, but pop out in a different spot. That's pretty good. So anyway, finished sewing mine on. Now that I've determined where my spots are. So because this is my last piece, I'm going to do a small little wee knot now that I've pulled it really tight, and then I'm just going to weave down. And once I pull, you're not going to even see that knot up there. And that is all I did. And I think my other one's pretty secure, but you probably sew way better than me, so that is my rocket ship all done. Kids are gonna love it. I got a few spots that I just gotta pop out. I kind of divoted because I pulled too tight. And I'm not so sure I'm trying to pop out the divots or just grabbing some yarn and stretching it so that it comes up. Anyway, I don't think kids are really going to care about little divots. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.